about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my tickets!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson and Blurnsball.
Futurama.
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Why? Why ask why? Try Bud Dry. No, Why? The Last Man. Brought to you by the good people at Future Investigations, Color Force, which is, I don't believe these are real production companies, which is Mark Productions, FXP, Hulu, and the Disney Corporation, which now owns 21st Century Fox.
You make up bands for Metal Hammer and Doom all the time.
Do not make up bands. And if you push me, I will do what I've been doing to Robert and Alexis, which is, as you're trying to do your plugs, show pictures of Dominic the Italian Christmas donkey.
I hate that thing.
You can deny God. You can deny
I will
sex.
never.
You cannot deny Dominic.
That there's so much wrong with what you just said.
God, much like Santa, is a matter of belief. Dominic is forever and eternal. Hee-haw, hee-haw.
There we go.
I was like just slowly turning off the lights in his room, and Ronnie has disappeared. Ronnie, all right, we're talking Why the Last Man, which may or may not come back. It's currently canceled on FX on Hulu. It may come back as a Disney adult series on Disney Plus. Like there's rumors that they're going to like create an adult, not like XXX or anything, but not children related part of Disney Plus, and then bring this back for that. Essentially, I guess it did well enough in the ratings for FX on Hulu. Enough people watched it, but there were some, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, take a drink, everybody. There were some problems with production and casting and contracts, and this ended up being more expensive than it needed to be, not to mention the fact that it's been in development since the year of the flood. So they opted they opted to cancel it for now, and then kind of like Swamp Thing and that what happened with that one. There's the possibility that these things come back, but for right now, it's just the one season we're going to talk about, and it's not coming back.
Swamp Thing is a tragedy, though.
Yeah, do you know the story on that? Like, I don't want to go off topic too much, but
this
10 words or less.
Trail. Yeah,
10 words or less with Swamp Thing. They shot the thing, and they shot it, I think, in North Carolina because they were supposed to get tax credits for it, which would have increased the profits on production. And then they never got the credits for one reason. Like someone didn't fill out a form or something. There was like a massive screw up. I'm pretty sure heads rolled and people were fired. But they never got the credit from North Carolina. So the show's budget ended up ballooning. And then it was like, okay, we don't, and at the time it was a DC Universe production. So it was Warner Media. It was, through Warner Brothers, but it was aired on DC Universe, and they were just like, yeah, we're done with this. We don't, whatever.
Which is, like I said, a travesty and a shame because the show was great.
Well, everything ended up being, right now it's airing on the CW, and you can watch it on the CW app. Because it might not actually be airing, but like it's there.
It's there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's there on the app now. And I think for a while there, it was actually airing on the channel. So I don't know if that's the reason why HBO Max hasn't swooped in and renewed it for a second season or not.
They could do wonders with that.
They really could. And considering it's basically theirs, it's a Warner Brothers thing. They have the thing with the conversation about like Netflix bringing back You after Lifetime canceled it, and after Fox canceled Lucifer, Netflix picked that up. Like, I don't understand why anything gets canceled anymore.
Right. Netflix just swoops in and takes up everything.
Right. And so with Disney Plus, Disney Plus has been sitting on a pilot for the new Warriors comedy show that has Evan Bevins' favorite comic book character, Squirrel Girl, in it. I have no idea why, like, when they were going to push Disney Plus out, that didn't end up on there. Like,
Right.
I don't understand why, like when ABC didn't pick up Marvel's Most Wanted, but they knew they were going to end up eventually doing this streaming service that was going to need exclusive content. I was like, just make it all. Make Most Wanted, make Squirrel Girl, New Warriors,
Yeah, go
make
back
the whole
and
thing.
I mean, you could even, now that Netflix is not doing the, at least make Daredevil and Punisher. I can survive without Luke Cage and Iron Fist and definitely Jessica Jones, even though Jessica Jones gave us one of the best Marvel villains ever.
Yes.
He was
Jones
amazing.
season 1 was fantastic. After that, it kind of goes downhill.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, yeah, let's continue on.
All right. So after 6 minutes of that rabbit hole, so I went back and I listened to the show that you did with Jesse Starcher and What's His Nuts and What's His Nuts' wife.
Is that Josh?
Yeah, Calandros.
Calandros, Josh and Laura, they're amazing people.
They are.
What's His Nuts?
Yeah, what good old What's His Nuts. I can never forget him.
What's His Nuts and what's His Nuts' wife?
It's What's His Nuts and Mrs. What's His Nuts.
Mrs. What's His Nuts.
So I went back and listened to the syndicated source material that had you, Jesse, Josh Calandros, and Mrs. Calandros on it. And I just kind of want to refresh that conversation.
Sure.
Did you read the entire run of
every single page of it?
Okay. So tell me, Ronnie, in your own words, where were you on the night of? No. Tell me in your own words. I'm going to begin my prosecution now. How close? Let's get into the television show, but I want to know specifically how closely the television show resembles the comic book and where it diverges. Please take as much time as it needs to explain that. Explain that to me.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but right away, they started changing little things right in the first episode.
Okay. So
I know that. Hi, what are you doing, buddy? This is not food. My dog. Playing with an envelope and he thought it was food. His girlfriend, everything about it started changing, just little bits of it. And that's when I was like, well, this is going to be a little different. So the main thing that they switched for me, it feels like they made Y less charismatic. Or Yorick. Sorry,
someone described him in the show as a beta male, and that is just the beginning of my problems with this character.
They made him less charismatic.
Yeah.
How you could take a character like Yorick and Y the Last Man and make him even more or less masculine than he already is.
Okay, so he was already not particularly masculine in the comic.
I wouldn't want to say particularly masculine. He was just listless, aimless. Okay. But you could
just
still tell
shiftless layabout.
But it wasn't like he would go out and chop wood or anything like that. That everybody's like, oh, toxic masculinity. No, bullcrap. But it was still like one of those things where like, okay, he was more relatable. Okay. As a character. This one is not that's my biggest change. That's what I couldn't get around when I was watching this show was how they took Yorick from like a 6.5, 7 to a 2.
Okay.
Like, how do you do that, man?
He's super annoying in this show. Gosh. Let me just say straight up, I do not like this show. This was a chore to get through.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where, like, because I make it a point, like, if I didn't have to actually work for a living and I could just do podcasts, I would try to do all the comic book adaptations and compare them because I think that's a fun niche to sort of dig into. And so I would have watched this from beginning to end no matter what. But if I didn't watch this for a podcast, I don't know if I would have finished it. Like, the only thing that would have made me finish it is I eventually have to get back to the Lost Symbol or whatever it's called on Peacock because I'm 2 or 3 episodes into that, and then I had to stop because I had to do other stuff. But like, I can't leave a show unfinished. It bothers me. Like, that happened with me with Rescue Me, where like I had watched it for almost every season, and then towards the end, I moved, I got divorced, things were happening in my life, and I just couldn't finish the show. And I spent like a day or two getting caught up because I'm like, I couldn't just leave it unfinished. I had to know how Rescue Me ended. So I would eventually have gotten to the end of Why the Last Man.
Right.
But
I loved Rescue Me.
it's a great show.
So,
but this
I'm
was
also having something delivered to the door right now, so that's why I had to go mute for a second. Sorry.
It's fine. This was an uphill slog. Problem number one is the only relatable character, the only likable character in this entire
was the monkey
show. Close is the president. Like Diane Lane
she was so good. I forgot
Yeah.
about her. Yeah.
She is amazing in this, and she is carrying as much of the load of this show as she can on her shoulders. And it's not easy because nobody else is helping the show along.
No, it's a shame that the rest of the show was such a slog to get through that I forgot about her performance.
Yeah, she's great. And that's the thing. Like when they would focus on Yorick after a couple of episodes, I'm like, I don't care about this character anymore. I hope he dies. But
he's the main character. It's literally called Why the Last Man.
Well, they alluded to the fact that there were other men out and about. Like his condition, his genetic condition was such that he was an anomaly, but he was not the only anomaly out there. And I'm like, could we get another man to be the last man then? Because Yorick sucks.
Yorick's, oh gosh, man. I mean, like, I get it. He was supposed to be annoying and kind of whiny in the comic books, but then he kind of grew into that. And you start to root for him more and more through the comic books, and it becomes more mature. I saw no growth in this person.
No, it's weird that, and I don't. This is the problem with television right now. This is a general statement I'm going to make, but I feel like they think they're going to get more seasons than they actually are, so they wait. And here's the thing: you should write your season of television like it's your last.
Right? Absolutely. Okay, so I know I gushed about this series before, but Heels, they wrote a beginning, a middle, and an end to this whole thing. Like this was going to be their one and only season.
So if Heels never comes back, you at least saw both brothers make have changes in their personalities and have character arcs, so that by the end of it they were not in the same place they were at the beginning of this. And here's the thing: you're now living in the apocalypse. You should change.
Yes,
it should affect you. Make you depressed, traumatized, something. No, he is the same asshole character at the beginning of Why the Last Man that he is in the very last episode. So it's like, I think it's like 8 or 10 episodes of just incessant whining.
Just okay. You take Luke Skywalker level whining, and then you just put an absolute unlikable character behind it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I can't even think of like a really unlikable, I don't know.
It's not even that
any one of the female Ghostbusters, but then make them say, I wanted to go to the Tashi station to pick up some power converters for 10 episodes.
Right, exactly. Because and no, because they're women. No, it's because the movie
they were not likable characters. Well, Holtzman maybe, but I'm not getting into that debate again.
Who?
McKinnon.
Okay. So she was cool.
So like Michelle McCarthy's character, like narrow this down. So imagine Michelle McCarthy for 10 episodes and an hour apiece. Melissa McCarthy. I keep doing that. Melissa McCarthy for an hour, for 10 hours straight going, I want to go to the Tashi station to pick up the power converters.
Oh my gosh. So,
meanwhile, it's the apocalypse. There are bigger fish to fry.
Right. So, like, it's not even that he's like, you want to hate this character, because it would be different if he was a character that you wanted to hate. So
he's not a villain.
It's just he's just indifferent. And after a while, he's annoying. It's just like, shut up.
You as an audience member should be rooting for him to survive.
Right.
And I want to see the Amazons who we need to talk about. I want to see the Amazons kill him. In the last episode, or the second last episode of the season, when the Amazons come for him in that one horse town,
which was such a good story arc in the book.
Right.
It was so good because you're like, oh man.
So that's from the book then, that whole thing.
Is this like in the book, he meets a girl and you're like, oh man, he's really getting he's getting away from his girlfriend who he's like obsessively crying about throughout the whole thing. And needs to, he wants to marry her, do this, he needs to find her, blah, blah, blah. And then kind of like it's that character growth or that question that comes up, like, but wait, you kind of hooked up with this girl,
Mhm.
and then the Amazons came and ruined it all.
Right.
But even then, like through this, you're just like, just put an arrow through his eye. I'd rather see the monkey survive.
Yeah. So Yorick sucks. You're too much whining, no growth. Never seems to understand the gravity of his situation, which is a fine starting point, but you have to transition after a while.
Excellent point. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but you
No,
just made
you're fine.
We're
friends here. We can just talk.
He has no sense of urgency.
Yeah.
No sense of wonder.
Diane Lane, so Diane Lane's his mother, and she flat out explained it to him. She was like, "You're the last man on Earth. We need to get you to a lab so a scientist can figure out why you survived whatever the hell this was that has now plagued humanity, quite literally."
And he literally just went.
And he was like, "But I want to go to the Tashi station to pick up some power converters." And the mom's like, "Smack."
Gosh, you should have hit him with a board.
I want to switch gears here.
Yeah.
And just talk about the one. This isn't all bad. I was talking to my father-in-law about this over the Thanksgiving holiday. This is a poorly executed, great idea.
Yes, absolutely.
And I didn't read the comic book, so it's not like I'm fanboying out on the comic and being like, "Oh my god, I love the comic so much. Why did they do this to my baby?"
I've only read it once, the whole series. I've only read it through once. Now, stuff like I've read Invincible through 3 times now, I think. Yeah, I love it, Now, you get to the point where you skim stuff, you go through it. But this one I loved, but I only read it once, mainly because it's heavy. It's
my last watch through of The Wire, I know the 5 seasons of The Wire so much by heart. There are certain scenes, as much as I love that show and think it's like the best thing ever captured on television, that there are scenes I'll just flat out skip. I'm like, nope, this isn't important. I don't need to see McNulty bang her. I don't.
Right. I've watched Community so many times. I'm like, oh, hey, this episode's coming up. Yeah. Go to the next one.
Skip.
All season 4, just skip it.
So this is a fantastic idea. I want to focus on that for a second because I don't want to spend just an hour bashing.
Absolutely.
Because I think the series as a modern parable about certain aspects of life is really interesting, and I wish it had just not, handled better. I wish it hadn't been fumbled. So the thing I talked about with my father-in-law, which really resonated with me, it touched me. And it made me kind of anxious about the world we're living in, is that the first thing that's said, and some people have criticized this, and I don't know how real it is, but I thought it was an interesting thing. So all the men are dead, right? All the men are gone.
Yeah.
And the first thing that they tell, once they establish that the line of ascendancy has been just decimated, so like this congresswoman has now become the president.
Yeah.
And the first thing they tell her is, "Hey, we are running out of power. Here's why. Most of the power plants across the United States were staffed by men.
Yep.
Pretty much only men worked there. They knew how it ran. This is not a field women typically went into, and they're all gone now, and we don't know how they work."
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh my God. Because when I
think about that, do you?
No, and that's what I'm saying. That's the brilliant thing about it. Like, if you think about the way that we guide our boys and girls, like, you don't have children, but you have, I'm sure, nieces and nephews. You've seen your cousins and brothers and sisters raise their own children. And, there are tendencies, good, bad, or indifferent, to guide our children into, different things,
Sure.
So what I'm saying is, like, girls typically, for one reason or another, don't go into engineering. They're not likely to work in an electrical power plant.
Right.
They're not, they might fundamentally know how it works to some degree or another, depending on which degree of science they went down, but they didn't land there. And there's an area of technicality and expertise that needs to be known for those things to operate. And when all the people who know it and can teach it to others are gone in a flash,
we're effed.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like the whole, like, I guess I died too if all the men were gone. But like what if like all of a sudden nobody that knows how to keep the lights on is alive? What a scary thought that is. That is anxiety inducing.
Well, it's not even like, I mean, okay, you look at all the things, all the jobs, the careers that you don't particularly see women go into.
Right.
One of them is pilot.
Yeah.
You don't see a whole lot of women pilots.
Well, doesn't that get addressed at some point in this where
Yeah.
they find 2 women pilots and they were like, you know, what did you do? Well, I was a flight instructor, and then I can't remember what the other one did.
Yeah.
But it wasn't flying anything.
Right. But I've flown a lot in my life, and it's always been men as the pilots. That's a lot of planes coming down, man.
Yeah.
You know,
right. And
you think of all the
like the truck drivers.
I was going to say the labor side of it. You know, construction workers, things like that.
People who work on oil rigs.
I work in the crane industry, and oil rigs. There's very few. There are some women that work on oil rigs, but very, very few. Right. Very few women truck drivers.
I am at no point saying no women work in any of these fields. And I think that was some of the criticism. But I mean, we're talking maybe 10 to 1.
Yeah. Like I work in a larger crane company, well, we're pretty much, we're getting to be worldwide. We've got cranes in different parts of the world now. But we're definitely, you know, across the nation. And a lot of these guys that I work on the tech side of it. I see a lot of our crane operators. They're all guys. It's not that they just hired just guys. Right. It's just that guys just go into this because, you know, at some point they're just like, hey, screw college. Let's go learn a trade.
Listen, how many men go into nursing? Let's flip this around.
Right. Not very many at all.
Right. It's again 10 to 1. Are there nurses? Sure. I work
absolutely.
I work in correctionals. There are plenty of male nurses, absolutely, male providers, whatever. Certainly male social workers. But even my industry, I'm outnumbered by women, probably 30 to 1.
Yeah, but in your industry and my sister's industry, absolutely. There is a larger female population in those jobs. And it's not because like only this gender can have, only this sex can have this job or whatever. No.
No, men want to go make money and they don't like people. So they tend to go into, technical jobs.
I sit in an office behind a computer because I don't like people.
But like women typically go into helping professions. It's also, if you're a average intelligence girl with not a lot of money, where do you get guided to?
Nursing,
nursing or
teaching, nursing, things like that.
And that is not a put down of either one. But
no, absolutely not. Yeah,
this is where a lot of our girls end up when they don't feel like they have a tremendous amount of other options.
Small town West Virginia boy right here. Small town. If you didn't go into nursing or the mines, there wasn't a whole lot for you.
Right. Yeah, that's another good point. So just to kind of round this back to Why the Last Man, the show, the high points of this show are when they're dealing with the realities of the new world. Yeah. They don't have men to run power plants. They don't have men to dig for oil or coal for that matter. They don't have men to do the jobs that men typically do. And so, and then what women are left, like what do you do first? And then agriculture is another one. Yes, we do a lot of big business agriculture now. Many of it's done by machines, but who's running those machines? Mostly men. Yeah. So you have issues with food supply. You have issues with energy. Not just the politics of it, but, and this is why I'm going on and on and on about this. Like, I loved that aspect of the show.
Absolutely.
Like, I could have just dealt with 10 episodes of them trying to figure out how to keep the lights on and the food in the refrigerators, and quite frankly, the fridge on, because that stuff was so much more interesting than any individual character or story element of this story.
There's a show called Jericho that maybe one day that you and I can take a look at down the road sometime.
How many seasons is it?
2.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's way down the road. The road. It's an older show, but Jericho is literally guy comes back to his hometown, gets in a fight with his dad, who they don't get along with, and on his way out, he looks up, there's a mushroom cloud in the distance. Right. And there's tactical nukes that go off all around the United States. but his town of Jericho is a tactical place. They tactically place where Jericho is left alone,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all, and it goes into that. But as far as it goes, everybody in the town of Jericho, there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no power. There's no water. There's no nothing, because all of these, like Boston and all these major cities are just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to figure out how to do these things, and then they have to figure out, well, what happens from here? There was another civil war where there were two different United States going on. One president thought he was, one person thought he was president, and then they started to fight. And, that's later on down the road, but it was just simple things like that. Like the characters were good. And there was character growth in that and everything, but it was the things like that, how they were going to survive day to day with all these people gone and all these things gone. How are they going to do it? That's what trapped me into this show,
right,
and made it so good for me. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So when you think about Y: The Last Man and all these simple things that you don't think about, the guy driving the crane, the guy flying the plane, or whatever, you're like, holy crap. Wow. Just like you said, it's anxiety inducing.
Yeah. It's funny. You said before, and it didn't connect with me right away, but now I'm when you said before, that's a lot of planes coming down, literally a lot of planes. Thousands of planes are playing in any given time with male pilots. Almost to a letter, all male pilots, and they all went, so think about I was thinking about the Avengers, Thanos wipes out half the population.
Boom,
and
snap.
just all those planes falling out of the sky. I think I can't remember which one it is, if it's Captain Marvel or not, but one of the end credit scenes where Samuel Jackson and Colby Smulders are driving, Maria Heller driving around, and everyone's starting to dust out, and you see planes crashing in the background,
like the helicopter go into the man. That's crazy. I mean, just thinking also one more rabbit trail, when they brought back everybody after the blip is what they called it, the snap.
Yeah,
what about the people that were riding in the plane? Did they come back in midair and fall?
Somebody brought that up. I've heard that elsewhere. Did everyone okay? Everyone goes back to where they were, so all the people in planes just in midair, like Bugs Bunny, just holding up a sign. Oh no!
Oh, no. You just see a person-shaped cloud as they go down.
I'm going to assume Banner put everyone safely on the ground.
Yeah, but man. Oh, that's so funny.
I'm back. Where's the land?
Their neck stretches out as their body falls, and then their head goes with it.
Why me?
Sorry.
Anyway,
yeah, let's get back to depressing Y: The Last Man.
Yeah. So I had a question for you. And it's because there were parts of this that was a little hard to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So this all takes place within the first year of the death of man.
Yeah.
Okay. Not 50 years, not 20 years, not 100 years, not 1,000 years. It's within a year.
Yeah.
That this all happens. And the idea of Yorick is precious because he survived, and we want to run tests on him and get his blood so we can figure out a cure, and when we start to bring men back, they don't die. Yeah. Okay. So in that sense, making sure that nothing happens to him made sense to me. But there was a lot of, if other people see him, they'll freak out. I didn't get why.
In the book, okay, so that was one thing I had a hard time grasping, and in the show as well. Is why everything went with Lord of the Flies so quick.
Yeah.
They started forming the Amazons and everything. I'm like, wait.
I'm gonna get to that in a minute. And that's we're all abused women, and men with penises are terrible, and so we want all men to die, and if we find them, we'll kill them. That made sense to me. Who doesn't want to kill all the men on Earth? I get it.
I don't understand. I get it. If people freak, are they just going to rip his clothes off and try to bone him?
What is he? One of the Beatles? I didn't understand what was happening here.
He's going full Hard Day's Night, running from people. And you know, like putting on sunglasses, like, and they run by him, and he's like, whoop, 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 and he takes off running the other way. But I didn't understand that, to be honest with you. That kind of lost me in the book too. But other than the fact that hey, you're our only hope. Hey, put a baby in me, put a baby in me, put a baby in me. You know, kind of a deal. Then that's the only thing I get from that. And I hate to put it like that because to be so crude about it, but when it comes down to that, that's the only thing that I would understand. But, you know, like, or just the actual sudden shock of, hey, my husband, son, grandpa, dad, whoever is dead, why aren't you dead?
I can't,
you know,
I remember there was something that I saw, and you know what? I was thinking of like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where all the children have been kidnapped, and I guess it's been for a while now. I mean, there were a lot of kids down in that mine, so let's say it had been a year or two. You know, and so Short Round is walking through the Indian village, and the women are like petting him and, you know, and grabbing at him and everything, and it's like, you know, they haven't seen their children, and it's like, oh, I don't mean this the way it's going to sound. I just want to touch a child.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. They just okay. So
Someone's cribbing that from this thing, and it's going to go up in a commercial years from now when one of my kids tries to run for office, because God knows I'm not doing it.
Just want to touch a child.
It's like, do you know what kind of parents these Jonas Radulich had? I just want to touch a child. What? I was talking about Indian women in an 80s movie, but that's fine.
Whatever. Oh, there's so much more wrong with that. But no, I get it. I mean, like, okay, so you go to bed, with your significant other, your husband, your boyfriend, whatever, and you wake up and they're just coughing blood and spewing gore everywhere, and then they fall over dead. You know, 6 months later, when you think there's no man left on earth, you see one. Yeah, you just kind of want to go like, oh, are you real?
It's kind of like a religious experience. And
yeah,
that much I got. I think the show mishandles it, though. I don't.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think the show gives you a clear picture as to the mindset of these people, because they dipped too much into the people are mad at the government because they think you're keeping secrets and there's a conspiracy, and, you know, and like, again, the writing in this is not great. So people are given like bits of dialogue that they just spew with authority, and then as the viewer, you're just supposed to accept it because it was said with authority, but it doesn't make a lick of sense. Right. You know what they could have used, Robert? I'm
Ronnie.
Ronnie. Yes, you know what they could have used to make the writing better?
I'm going to say Grammarly.
You're right. For you listeners of TV Party Tonight on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, brought to you by W2M, Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes, while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. So download Grammarly today. Go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. And again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. One of the agendas of this show is to bash conservatives.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And there was such a parable about the modern two-party system, to where even in the gravest of circumstances during the midst of an apocalypse, one side will seek to get advantage over the other, and they cannot work together. There was the writers of Y: The Last Man were desperately speaking through the dialogue of this show to tell people, hey, if the Democrats get power in the apocalypse, the conservatives will try to screw them to take it back. They can't.
I wasn't going to open this door, but since you have so kindly,
well, I have to, because the blonde woman, I can't remember what.
Yeah, whatever.
Basically, the leader of she writes a book about how we're killing boys, and it's toxic saying things. Talking about toxic masculinity is a bad thing, and we have to do better by our men. And she has a lot of lines in the show of where are the men? We need to bring the men back. The world would be better with men. And she's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. I get it. There are douchebag guys everywhere.
Sure.
But because I may go out and shoot a shotgun or chop a tree down, or maybe because I want to open a car door or a door for somebody, does not make me toxic. I try to be a gentleman. I try to be a man. I try to be the man that my dad and my mom raised me to be. If you say that's toxic masculinity, you are just spewing nonsensical words that you've heard the media shout to your face, and you don't know what you're talking about. Done. I've had a problem with that for years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
what did you, so was there that kind of character, or was that element in the books, or was that something wholly invented for the show?
Pretty much that I can remember. That was definitely not invented, but heavily elevated for the show.
Okay, so there's some of that in the comic book, but it isn't.
I can't remember, but not much.
What is the phrase that Sean always likes to use? Lampshaded. Is that right? Am I using that phrase right?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't. Okay, let me put it this way. Most of it was, if not 99.9% of it was written into the show.
Okay.
That I can remember.
I like the actress that plays her. I like the character in terms of, you know, giving somebody to create dramatic tension with Diane Lane's character. In that sense, she's fine. So I could appreciate the performance and I could appreciate the drama. The message was it's one of those deals where, like, I'm not like you and some of the other guys. I'm not so far conservative that when I see somebody expressing a progressive point of view, I retch. But I do get a little prickly when a show makes the right side of the argument this cartoonish, and I think that's where I'm coming from. I
being okay, yeah, I have a more conservative point of view. Ooh, sue me. If you did that to either side, I would be turned completely off by it.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I don't like it when conservatives are made to look cartoonish. I don't love it when progressives are made to look cartoonish. I think whatever point you're trying to make isn't made well when you make the other side look like a cartoon villain.
Right.
It tells me that you don't think your argument is strong enough to sustain a level debate. You have to make the other side half an idiot.
It comes down to, I'm sorry, but that's just where we are right now. It's just where it's on both sides, but mostly I've seen it. It comes down to the screaming, "Hey, let's have a civil discourse." No, you're wrong, and I hate you.
Right.
You know, so
a civil discourse is you shut up and listen, and I tell you that, you know, all the ways that you're wrong.
Right. Well, okay. As much as people hate him, I've found that the only person that goes to like college campuses and stuff to have a civil discourse that has all of his facts in a row and really wants to talk to people and everybody uses this meme wrong, but he says, "Change my mind." He wants people to try to change his mind. Crowder is very smart. I've seen his videos where he actually tries to talk to people, but then he goes off and he does his show and he's a complete ass on that.
Right.
So it kind of ruins what he's trying to do there, in my opinion. And it's one of those things where, like, if you want to sit and talk, you can. But there's not a whole lot of talking because people start screaming at each other.
It's one of those things I talk to my kids about. Like, it's okay for you to have a point of view and have an opinion, but
Absolutely.
then you need to come back and say, with evidence as to why you believe this thing to be true.
That's all I'm asking.
I teach that to my 7-year-old. I can't just say thing is bad and walk away like you've accomplished something.
Okay.
You're not doing a podcast.
Trump. Orange man bad, that's all you give me.
Yeah.
He say bad words on Twitter. Him bad, him go away.
Yeah.
Why? Tell me what makes him so bad. You can't, because you don't know. You just say he bad because he say bad words. He's racist. Why is he racist? Don't know. Just that he is. Screw you. You're racist too.
Yeah.
People. What? But all I asked was how. I'm sorry, but anyway.
Trump and Barack Obama suffered from the same problem. The other side was mad that they won. The other side was mad that they won, and so nothing they could do could ever be right.
Absolutely. I
really liked the Amazons in this show.
Did you?
Yeah, I like the look. I'm very sympathetic to the idea of there are women who have been abused and mistreated in this world. And when they saw an opportunity to take control because the men were gone, they were loath to give it up. Yeah. And you needed a sort of political point of view opposite of we need to bring the men back for society to be sustainable.
You need an antagonist to that protagonist point of view.
Right. And so I didn't. The girl who plays the lead Amazon, I can't. I have to go through the cast list to find her name, but she's the one that convinces them that she was a cop, and she's the one leading. You know, she's the one kind of in charge of that whole operation there. And then she gets undone and unceremoniously murdered and shoved into the pool at the end.
Right.
I actually liked her. I liked her character. I liked her give and take with the redhead that who. She has some really funny lines towards the end, when she confronts her. She was like, "We always eat first," which could we get a new hackneyed line constantly said in Hollywood? Between Roman Reigns and half of Hollywood, I am really sick of the "I eat first" line.
Yeah,
it's a little overused, but it made me laugh when she said it.
Yeah.
And there's the whole bit where they're trying to teach the daughter to hate her brother and her father, and she's like, "What?" She has a really great line later on where she's just like, "Why am I the outcast? Because I liked my husband." And that's a very real thing that we're struggling with, even without the absence of men in this world. Is women hating other women because they like their husbands? There are people who say things like all sex is rape, all sex with men is rape, and that marriage is patriarchal, and it is anti-feminist and all of that. Believe me, I've heard all the arguments.
Yeah,
I have all the words and I've heard all the arguments. And I think a group in the show, given the setting of this thing, that represents that is something the show needed. And I actually think it was represented fairly well.
I'll agree with that. Absolutely. While their point of view isn't sustainable for human life, I get it. Like eventually you're going to run out of sperm banks to go to or whatever. Well, actually, I think that I don't know if they touched that. That was something they touched in the
it's brought up in the show.
I can't remember.
And it was something about making sure the sperm was protected, and there was an argument about it at some point during the show.
But there's only so far you can go before there's no more babies, and then the human race is done.
Yeah.
So, but I get it, mainly because listen, you're talking to a guy who believes there should be chemical castration for sex offenders. As far as it doesn't matter what kind, but you're also talking about a guy who believes everybody deserves a fair shake in court, because there's so many times that these things come up, and then not so many times. There are times that these things have come up and it's not true. But in not saying that I don't believe people, but believe whatever, I'm saying there are times, unfortunately, that it has come up and that it's not true, and it could ruin a guy's life. But if it is unequivocally, rape, whatever, chemical castration, to the fullest extent of the law, get rid of the desire or whatever. You're not gonna be able to do it again. But like I said, there's a point where there's only so far you can go before oh, hey, this is it for the human race. We got 75 years left and you're done, basically. Yeah. And so it's like one of those confusing things. Like you kind of almost side with him because dude bad, but not all dude bad, kind of a deal. Try to tiptoe around that a little bit.
All right. This character that they have him partnered up with, let me find her real quick.
I wanted her to be so much cooler than she was.
Where is she?
Agent 3.
Yeah. Ashley Romans is Sarah Burge Agent 355. Is she in the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's his bodyguard. His
Okay.
mom says, "Hey, go with him to protect him," just like in the show.
Okay.
He's like, "Mom, I can protect myself on the way to the Tashi station."
Ma.
Ah,
So I thought she was okay in this.
Mama.
I thought she was okay in this. A little.
She didn't stand out like I wanted her to, man.
So what's she like in the 50 words or less? What's she like in the book?
Cool.
Mhm.
Assassin.
Mhm.
Pardon the French, badass.
Mhm.
So
And here she was a little not as badass.
no,
Not compared to the book, at least. I thought
not
she was.
compared
Yeah.
to the book.
I think my problem is my view of her was shaded by the fact that most of her scenes are with Yorick, and he's so terrible. His terribleness bleeds onto her.
She does fine.
Yeah.
To quote Mark Radulich, she's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't stand out like I wanted her to. If Yorick's going to suck, she needs to stand out. But she doesn't.
Last thing I'm going to say about this, and then I'll give you the last word and we'll close up. So as a drama that deals with, well, what if, to coin a phrase, all the men were gone? What would happen in society? How would that work out? Where would how would things evolve? How would things change? And as a piece of dramatic tension, we have one guy and we're trying to get him from one side of the continent to the other. Okay. And then, hilarity ensues and then we have lobster. Fine. It's actually not a bad premise.
I like lobster.
And as I said before at the top of the show, when they're dealing with the minutia of how do we get the world back from the apocalypse on track, it's actually quite a good show. When it devolves into action schlock is actually where, and I feel like they didn't think the audience for this thing, and to a degree, I could see why they would think this. The audience for this thing would be bright enough to be able to stay with it if it was just a drama. Yeah. Like if they didn't have a stupid action sequence, people would not be into the show. And I will tell you, the last bit where the terrorists try to take over and people are being shot and the president is taken hostage and all of that. Wow. I'm like, that's about where the show loses me for good. To where I'm like, I don't care what happens anymore in this. Like anything that was good about this show has gone out the window. There's
a siege on the White House at one point in the book, but it's done better. I hate to keep gushing about the comic book, but
that's why you're here.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. That was it. I just there's a better show here. And maybe if they get a second season, they'll do more of that and less of, hey, the people like the jingling keys and when things go boom. Because it's not necessary in this show.
What you gave me, I'd be better off with a Parker Lewis Can't Lose type comedy.
I'll give you
this morning when I woke up, he's like, I didn't think I'd be the last man on earth, but look at this. I am. Whoop, whoop, kind of a deal.
What a reference. Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Wu-Tang and American Saga season 2 is mostly them creating Enter the Wu-Tang. There's there was more gritty crime drama in the first season than there is in the second season. The second season is mostly them just recording the album. And it's the best thing I've watched this year. It's amazing.
I was like, I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like, is Mark having a stroke?
No.
Did forget what
so
we were
good.
Talking about?
No. That's my point. Jesse and I talked about this when we reviewed Wu-Tang American Saga. We didn't need action in Wu-Tang and American Saga, despite it being a gritty crime drama.
I'm telling you this right now. Yellowstone is one of the best shows I've watched, and there's not action every episode in it.
Right.
In the beginning of the season, there is a little bit. There's a few fist fights and stuff like that. It's just drama. It's just well acted drama.
Right.
I love Yellowstone. I can't help it. What was there's a couple others that I've watched lately that I'm like, oh, this is really good. And it doesn't need to be like Daredevil level, fight scenes and all that. While those are amazing, they belong there. And they're just not doing it to catch our attention. Well, probably they are.
Right.
But
I feel like this thing rested like there was a conversation in the writing room about like, well, if we don't end this thing in explosive action, we're gonna lose the comic book fans that like the bang boom zow. But I think that's a misreading of comic book fans.
Absolutely.
How much, and this is it's like a really like a 10 word or less thing. That's what I'm going to end on. How much traditional action was there in Brian K. Vaughan's
Not
Why
a
the
whole
Last
lot.
Man?
No,
Right. I had a feeling it was more of a think piece than it was like
I mean, there
Spider-Man.
was, but there really wasn't. I mean, like
Right.
most of the fight, you know, like there were some fights between Agent 355 and other people, and you know, they had to fight off the Amazons and stuff like that. But then there's just a lot of talking too in some issues. So, you know, it's just, you know, you don't have to make it, you know, he doesn't have to go like half the population wants my peen. The other half of the population wants to cut off my peen. Where do I go from here? Oh, explosions, you know, kind of a deal. Yeah, it's insulting to think that. You know, get a good actor, get a good script, and let people be the judge. And people know when they're being pandered to, you know, especially fans of this book. You're not. This is such a niche section of comic books. Like not many people. You go out to any comic book shop and you catch a younger person or just about anybody. You're like, have you read Why the Last Man? You're like, what the crap are you talking about? Or no, what's that about?
Is that Spider-Man book?
Is that, yeah, Why the Last Man? You know, is that a Flash? You know, or well, no, people are not going to know. You know, so you're not making it for everybody. You're making it for those who know the book.
Well, not only that, but you're also making it for a general TV audience. Because look, this is something and this is the argument I've been in all year with some of you guys, and I will probably continue to be in. You have to remember the pool of people reading comic books by comparison to the people that watch TV.
Absolutely.
Is like infinitesimal in comparison.
Well,
if you only seek to bring in the comic book readers, your show won't survive. It's too niche an audience.
Absolutely. I get it. And like the changes they had to make to all the Marvel movies and some of the DC movies, I dig because I get it. You can't go on a 45 issue, you know, can't go on the 45 issue arc of, you know, this, that, and the other and expect to get in a 2.5 hour, 3 hour movie. Even when it's up to 3 hours, you got to go where the money is. You got to rewrite stuff.
I just want to. Planet Hulk was a year-long story,
right?
You know, how do you do that unless you're going to do a series?
Right. You don't.
Right.
You rewrite it. You make it fit in that nice little candy coating. You know, you pack all the chocolatey goodness and that M&M, and you say, here, enjoy. And most people enjoy. But those who are weird and don't like chocolate, spit it back out and say it's not like the original. And you're like, well, you would never make money in Hollywood because that's not how things are done.
Right. So I just, as the last thing, and then I'm going to jump right into the Amazon plug. Like, you have to adapt this for a general audience. I get that. My issues with it trying to reach that audience are essentially, I think, there are plenty of people that watch smart television. There's plenty of smart television out there that doesn't have bang zoom. I do feel like there is an element of Hollywood that says we're adapting a comic book. Okay, when do we get to the punchy parts? It's why I loved Doom Patrol season 1. One, it was one of the best written TV shows of that year.
Yeah.
2, it still is. I just finished Doom Patrol season 3, which we're going to review next week.
Nice.
And it's still good. It's just not as good as it was the first season. But there was an acknowledgement that there's a portion of the comic book reading crowd that just wants the punchy parts. But that's not your whole audience. That's certainly not your general TV watching audience. And they went, you know, and I feel like in the writing of Why the Last Man, they were like, we got to throw the punchy parts in. And I'm like, you really didn't, though. This was an interesting enough subject matter all on its own.
It's like they handed the plot over to somebody and say, okay, Yorick, he's our hero. What does his costume have a cape or no? Well, he doesn't have a costume. Well, you mean doesn't have a costume? It's a comic book, right?
Right.
Does he fly? Does he shoot lasers? What's he do? No, he's the last man on Earth. That's it.
That's actually like a brilliant point you're making. I don't know if you realize you're making it. Like, people hear comic books and they just assume you mean Superman, Batman, and Iron Man.
Absolutely.
But do you know, like, people listening to this that just saw the show but aren't like comic book fans, do you know there are all kinds of comic books out there? There are comic books that just deal in true crime, that just deal in like crime fiction. There are comic books, and like I love reading like indie comics. I love reading stuff like Aftershock
to Perdition.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's one of the ones I've wanted to do on here. But like I have a whole slew of indie comic books that I've bought, especially from this one company. I think it's called Aftershock.
Mm-hmm.
And,
oh yeah, okay.
You know, and one of them is about like a gay MMA fighter who gets outed. Another one is a really fun fantasy book where people decide who's going to be an elected official by having an MMA fight. There's a crime fiction one called Killer Groove that has to do with like an old musician and a detective and all of that. But none of what I just said had superheroes in it.
No, I mean freaking okay. Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody realized. I mean, like they do because they say it every week, but most of your general audience is always going to be like, oh yeah, that is a comic book. Well, I never would have guessed that.
Right?
They don't make comic books about zombies. They don't fly. You know, kind of a deal. Well, you got to read more comic books if you don't believe zombies can fly. But yeah, what all of my what did I read that was gosh, I followed from like Why the Last Man was one. There's all kinds of true crime stuff that I love that I can't think off the top of my head.
I'm glad they haven't, like when we did Saga a few years ago, I was like, how has this not been adapted yet? After seeing Why the Last Man, and I really am done after this, until they figure out that how to write and adapt comic books for an adult audience that isn't a toaster oven collectively, that isn't like mildly mentally retarded, please just leave Saga alone.
Yeah,
you're not going to get it right. You're just going to piss people off.
Did they do a Taco Bell with a commercial with Saga character or like people dressed up like Saga in it?
Who knows? All right, folks, that's it. That's our review of Why the Last Man. Before we go, I want to let you know, recording this on a Thursday night. Tomorrow is Friday because Friday follows Thursday, in case you didn't know that. And tomorrow, the new Volbeat album comes out. Did you know that, Ronnie? Did you know
I didn't.
Servant of the Mind by Volbeat was going to be released tomorrow?
Quit making bands up.
I'm not. You know what a Volbeat
I know
is.
Volbeat. Yeah, I know Volbeat.
I mean, like I get that you don't know who John Cougar concentration camp is, but you know,
I swear to this day you made that up.
I got that.
There's no band that is ballsy enough to call themselves that.
But Volbeat is a real band, and they have a real album coming out tomorrow. Did you know that if you wanted to listen to it, but for free, and didn't want to pay for it, did you know you could do that?
Free, you say?
Free.
Explain how, sir.
I will. Well, you could listen to the new Volbeat album on Amazon Music Unlimited by clicking on our link in the description of this podcast for getamazonmusic.com/WTM network. And you'll get a free, count them, free. I don't know why I'm putting up a 4. Free 30 days.
For free. 30 days.
For free trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. Yay!
Too legit.
Hey, too legit. Anyway,
please, Hammer, don't hurt him.
You could do like me right now and do the Macarena or the Time Warp. You could do the Time Warp again for free. By clicking the link in this description of this podcast at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network to get your free trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. You check out the service. You can download all the stream all the music you want. At the end of 30 days, if you want to keep it, you pay the monthly fee like you would do for Spotify or Apple Music. If you want, you can cancel it if you don't like it, but that's crazy talk. But there's no fuss, no muss, no contracts, no nothing.
It's worth it.
It is absolutely worth clicking the link in here just to test it out. And if you don't like it, you can cancel it. But if you do that, you help us out. You keep the wheels turning here on this podcast machine.
Worst case scenario, you end up with 30 free days of music.
All right. And who doesn't want a soundtrack to their life? I just want to let people know, if you happen to catch the live stream of this, and a few people, bounced in and out tonight, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you happen to have caught this podcast somewhere, but you're not subscribed to our podcast feed on your podcast feed of your podcast chaser of your choosing, please do so. If you subscribe, you'll get the shows automatically. I'm subscribed through Apple Music. Yay! Some of the shows I listen to, and some of them I don't. Not particularly interested in soccer. So.
I am subscribed through Apple Podcasts as well, but also I've subscribed on YouTube.
Right. So, you'll get all of our shows that we do here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, except for the Metal Hammer of Doom, are live streamed. We encourage you to come on the shows, check us out, leave comments. We've been doing we've been doing a lot of boxing live streams lately, and those have gotten some really good interaction. Last night, myself, Robert Winfrey did a triple feature for a bunch of MMA movies: Halle Berry's Bruised, Born Champion with Dennis Quaid, and Warrior from about a decade ago with Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton.
Such a good movie.
And we had friends in their chat room that were contributing and hanging out with us the whole time. So we will acknowledge you. We will, connect with you. If you send biblical passages, I'm probably not going to put those up, but feel free. That's real true story. But feel free to do so. So, we're really trying to grow the channels. Like and subscribe on YouTube. If we eventually get to, I think it's 200,000 subscribers, we can then be a critic on Rotten Tomatoes. And that is the goal at this point.
Yes!
I need to get on Rotten Tomatoes. If Doug Walker can be on Rotten Tomatoes, I need to be on Rotten Tomatoes. Jeremy Johns.
If half these dill weeds on Rotten Tomatoes are on there, that by God, we need to observe.
If Jeremy Johns of JeremyJohns.com can be on Rotten Tomatoes, I can be on Rotten Tomatoes.
First of all, your name is you don't work. You don't have JeremyJohns.com. God, I hate that.
Yeah,
I'm done now.
If Chris Stuckman can be on Rotten Tomatoes, I don't see why we can't.
So the fact that he just says, "I'm going to start my own website and I'm going to talk about movies," and he does so in a very poor way. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do a good job, but yeah, he has. I mean, listen, we do good here. Mark puts a lot into this. Mark is a very talented reviewer, critic, and just a handsome man. And he deserves to be on Rotten Tomatoes. So I beg of you, I will go full ASMR for you if you just put Mark on Rotten Tomatoes. Please subscribe.
Yep.
Please.
W2mnet.com on YouTube. That's where we are. All right. Enough begging for now. This week, we reviewed You Season 2, Encanto, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, the aforementioned triple feature. And then tomorrow, we'll have 2 Volbeat releases, one for Seal the Deal and Let's Boogie, and another one for Rewind, Replay, Rebound. Saturday, we'll have Jesse and Al Sedano of the Thanos and Warlock podcast, Resurrections. They are finishing up the run on Stars and Stripes, this Volume 2, which is the second half of the run of that series. I may or may not be doing coverage for the Devin Haney fight. Depends on what time my wife and I are done watching the second part of Beatles Get Back. But we are definitely doing the Tank Davis versus Isaac Cruz fight. That'll be myself and Robert Winfrey. We'll also re-airing our Big Short review. That's directed by Adam McKay. And Adam McKay has actually got a movie coming out a week from tomorrow called Don't Look Up. It's going to be in limited theatrical release before it goes on Netflix on December 24th. Cool. So if you want to see it in theaters, you can do that from the 10th to the 24th. Next week, myself and Jason Teasley will be reviewing King Richard, The Guilty, and Night Teeth. Myself, Alexis Hana, and David Wright and Robert Winfrey are reviewing Cowboy Bebop. Chris Sheehan of X-Lapsed and his ElfQuest podcast and whatnot are reviewing NXT War Games. Myself and Jesse Starcher reviewing Doom Patrol Season 3. And finally, Chris Bailey, myself and Pat Mullen will be doing the next chapter of the Four Kings of Boxing, Leonard versus Hearns, the showdown at the Palace.
Good show. Y'all doing a good job.
Thank you. All right, go ahead and tell them about your twitching and shouting.
I'm a dungeon master.
Woohoo!
Woo! What
are you like in the books that are you in the dirty books that my wife reads?
No, maybe. You never know. God, if I'm on a cover of one of those, things have gone poorly. Your wife is into some bad books.
My wife is into dirty BDSM books.
Oh, what that means is I actually run games of Dungeons and Dragons, and I do so online.
Not those kinds of books.
No. But there is one that you would probably like that is called the Book of Vile Darkness from way back in the day. You can't get it anymore. They took it off shelves. But anyway, I run live actual play streams of Dungeons and Dragons every other Saturday. Now, I had plans to we took a week off because we do it every other week because I had plans to go see my family for Thanksgiving. Well, they all done caught the COVID, and so I couldn't go in to see them. So we still took the week off. So a week from Saturday, we're coming back, and we're coming back strong, and it's going to be a good time. We're playing Rime of the Frost Maiden, where everybody is up north in the Arctic tundra of 10 towns, and it's been a lot of fun. Got some great characters, got some amazing players. We have dedicated microphones for each of our players now, which is really cool. So they're coming in a lot. You can hear them a lot better. So we're getting better at a little bit of the technical stuff. But I tell you what, man, it's a lot of fun. I am in the works of restarting my video game streaming. I'm in the works of starting a second game. We got some plans on, some other board games, tabletop games, card games being streamed soon. Like Ronnie, you say that every time you come on here. Yeah, that is a lot of work to try to get scheduled around. I now understand what Mark goes through whenever he opens the giant tome that is the schedule amongst the candles and the men in.
Do you know what it's like when people can't start on time or forget they're on a podcast?
Listen, man. I will burn this mother down.
It's fine. Just asking.
I have a dog. He's like my child. I had to take care
God.
of him. He's so sweet. You'd love him. But anyway, but yeah, so it's a lot of scheduling going into that. I'm back into Magic the Gathering, so we'll probably be streaming some of that soon. Yeah, man, we got a lot of plans coming up. So stick with me. Actually going to probably be coming back tomorrow night with the old 1-2 punch of streaming some Call of Duty with my friends. Activision still sucks. They still haven't given me my old thing back, but they made it to where I could my friends made it to where I could start a new thing and play with them. So I love them. Start a new account. Other than that, man, just follow me on Twitch. It is Misfits and Miscreants. So if you go to twitch.tv/Misfits and Miscreants, you can just hit that follow button and keep up with me. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Don't do much on Twitter, but mostly Instagram. I post a lot of stuff on there. I started painting miniatures and terrain and stuff. But you can keep up with us, what we're doing on there as well. We also have a TikTok, which I do every once in a while make a TikTok, but mostly I just use it to watch other things. People a lot more talented than I am in that aspect. But yeah, just any kind of social media, follow us on it, and we'll get you hooked up, man. We'll make sure you know what we're doing. And with the new season of Stranger Things coming out, when, Mark?
I don't know. I don't cover that on here.
Well, F. I'll be giving them at least something special. That has to do with Dungeons and Dragons and Stranger Things. So coming up soon as the new season drops, I'll be giving away a Stranger Things themed Dungeons and Dragons starter set, which will be really cool. It has a really, really, really good module in it, campaign, whatever you want to call it, book. So yeah, with that, I will shut up now and kick it back to you, Marcus.
All right. Thanks for joining us here on our review of Why the Last Man, brought to you by FX on Hulu for the Dungeon Master, Ronnie Adams. I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.